My next guest takes on Jamall Emmers coming up here at Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series on June 26th, which is going to be live on UFC Fight Pass. It is Julian Erosa joining me here on the program for the very first time. Julian, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Now, where am I getting you today? Is Sunday like a rest day for you, or are you going to be in the gym today at all?
Yeah, it's kind of Sundays. It's kind of a little bit of both. We go. I do a little bit of open grappling at 10th Planet over in Henderson. But it's a couple of hours of just kind of like light rolling, and I mean, you can basically do whatever you want, either light rolling or hard rolling, and then the rest of the day is kind of relaxing.
And of course, we had the big fights last night at UFC 225, and I know one of your teammates, Dan Ige, gets a quick win. How motivating is that? Seeing a teammate of yours get a huge win like that, just before your big fight.
Oh yeah, it's great. I train with Dan a lot, and he's a talented fighter, and coming off a loss on his first UFC fight, on his debut, it's good to see him get a good win like that, because it's something like not only did he need to get a win, but it's good to get make a statement like that for him. So yeah, it definitely pumps me up. Makes me want to fight. I've been ready to fight for my last fight. In comparison to the date of June 26th is like 6 months ago. So it's been a little while. I'm the kind of guy that likes to fight every few months. So I've been itching to get in there, and then watching fights just gets me more pumped up.
And you've been on a roll, man. Back-to-back wins heading into this fight, and of course, since you left the UFC, you've been like 6-2 as far as your record. What would you sort of attribute your success to since you've been outside the octagon? Because you've been looking great, man.
Yeah, honestly, and shoot, it's being 6-2. There's one of those losses that's kind of a controversial decision loss over in London, which I lost to a hometown kid, Paddy Pimblett.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
And I think I won that fight, but I can't. I got to finish people in their hometown, so it's understandable. I should have finished that fight anyways. That's my mistake. But so ever since the UFC, man, just been training hard. Honestly, it's just been the hunger. I want to get back in there, and and I got to the point where I was like, I've been at the highest level and lost at the highest level, and they cut me, so I literally have nothing to lose. Like, that's what I told myself, and so I'd go out there and have absolutely no pressure on me, whether it was for a title fight or not for a title fight. I just told myself, man, I was already in the UFC and they cut me, so like what is it going to do to help? How is it going to help me if I just if I'm cautious about these fights? I need to go out there and beat these guys and beat them good, and that way I can get noticed again. And if I lose, I lose. So I really had nothing to lose, like, in my own mind. So it definitely helped me relax in fights, and I think perform better.
How did this fight come together? Because I know for a lot of the Contender Series fighters, they knew about their own fights, months in advance. Did you know kind of like that, or was this sort of something that happened a little bit sooner?
I moved to Vegas about 10 months ago, and so what was happening was I was living in Yakima, Washington, and I really didn't have anybody managing me 100% over there, and so and it's a small town, so, and I had Sean Shelby's email, so it's like I could email him, but I'm just some small town kid, looking to get back in the big show. So moving out here about 10 months ago, I signed with Miesha's management team about 4 months ago, and then and I've known Miesha for like 10 years, so I knew she was gonna have my back, and I could trust her, and probably like we had a couple of game plans, but probably about a month in from signing from her, she got me on the Contenders, and I was like, yeah, this is a perfect road for me to get back into the octagon.
Yeah, no, it's a great stable of fighters that Miesha has managed right now. It's kind of neat to see you part of that, being a Washington State guy, which is kind of neat. Let's talk about your opponent, though, Jamall Emmers. He's got that 13-3 record. He's actually got a win over Corey Sandhagen, who's in the UFC right now. How do you feel like you match up against him?
I think I match up great. Guys who seem like wrestler-based have always been good matchups for me, just only because like they don't realize how hard it is to take me down. I'm just so long and lanky in the cage, and I've been able to melt people a lot, like in the second rounds and the third rounds, and even some of the guys with the best, or that say they have the best cardio, always end up folding underneath me. And so I think for him, it's going to be, it's going to be kind of a lose-lose for him. I think my hands are better. I'm smoother on my feet, and it's going to get to the point where we can bang it out, and that's always fun. I enjoy that, but I think he's going to want to take me down, try to submit me, or try to control me on the ground. And once he realizes that that's not working, he's going to start having to take desperate shots, and he's going to end up getting more and more tired as the fight goes on. And my cardio pace kind of just stays at the same, kind of keep that jogger's pace, almost like a Diaz. I stay consistent, and I just keep going. I don't like to take breaks, and I know where I can conserve my energy and where I can really put it on people. And So I think you'll see. I mean, obviously, a first round finish would be amazing, but I think you'd see him starting to fold more and more throughout the fight, and later on in the second round or in the third round, you'll see him break and be able to finish this fight.
And one of the luxuries that you have of living in Vegas and training in Vegas is there's a lot of fighters heading down to Vegas now because of the UFC PI. So who have been some of your main training partners that are helping you get ready for this fight?
Yeah, it's amazing, man. Like, there's a lot of gyms that we train out down here. Like, I train at 10 Planet Jiu-Jitsu. I also train at Extreme Couture, but a lot of my training has been at the PI. We just kind of do our own thing. We grab It's nice because you can like kind of cherry pick guys you want to go with. Like, seeing guys at Extreme, seeing guys at 10 Planet, we're like, hey man, you're a 45er, I'm a 45er. Let's get some other 45ers and let's just go to the PI and let's do some sparring. Let's get our training in over there. And so I've been training a lot with Lance Palmer, who's just won his fight at the PFL, was the World Series of Fighting champion at one point, and then and he's a stud. I get to train with Jeremy Kennedy from the UFC, Dan Ige, obviously from the UFC, Yaz. I can't remember Yaz's last name, but he's on the Contender Series the week before me. And he's a 45er. And then, so we basically have like, 4 or 5 good 45ers, and then other guys that we kind of pick and choose from other gyms that we'll meet up with, and we'll get a good spar session in, or we'll do whatever we want because, it's good to every single round have a guy exactly your weight class. It's some of these other places that I'll go to, I might have to go with a 35er, I might have to go with a 55er, maybe a 70 pounder sometimes, just, depending on how the rounds are going. And so having 5 or 6 145ers every single round is with a featherweight. So that definitely helps out. And not only that, just having some of the top guys like Dan Ige, obviously, Jeremy Kennedy, 3-1 in the UFC. I mean, he was on a crazy, and he was undefeated for a long time too. And then obviously Lance Palmer is a big name. He's not in the UFC, but he's one of the big names in the other big organizations too. So, so it's really nice. The UFC Performance Institute is amazing. It's like it's almost like a summer camp for fighting.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm glad you brought up Jeremy Kennedy. I was going to ask you about him. I'm originally from Vancouver, BC, Canada, and Jeremy's someone I've interviewed for years. Were you surprised at how polite he was? He sort of lives up to that Canadian moniker, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, for sure. He's a good guy. Always willing to help. Because it just seems like a lot of people have kind of just moved down here to Vegas, and so like him being one of the guys too. He was looking for a spot down here for a little while, and I think his game plan is to live down here, and so. But yeah, I met him, and it seemed like he was looking for like a group of people to kind of latch onto as well. So we kind of just all started training together, and it's perfect because me and him are built pretty identical, but we have different styles. Like we're both tall, long, lanky guys, but he's the guy that wants to take you down and grapple you. I'm a guy that wants to stand and bang, and I kind of have a weird style, and his style is a little weird too. So we definitely complement each other really well, and it's all about having those looks. Like I'm tall, lanky striker, he's tall, lanky grappler. Then we have Lance, who's like a tank, and then I have another kid that moved up here with us, and he's just like Lance, he's a tank, and so you got all these, and then Dan Ige kind of falls in the middle, and then we have other guys that we go with as well. So just really mixing up the body types and the skill sets is amazing. But yeah, back to the original question, Jeremy Kennedy is a great guy.
Did you get to train with TJ Laramie at all? I know he came down for Jeremy's last camp. He's the TKO featherweight champion up here in Canada. The kid's only 20 years old, but he's pretty talented.
Yeah, holy crap! I didn't even realize he was that young, but yeah, he is. He's super talented. And he's built like a tank too. He's another good look for us because most of the guys that obviously me and Jeremy fight are going to be short, stocky dudes, especially at featherweight. You're starting to see more lanky guys kind of come up through some of the rankings and stuff, which is nice because I think that's the best body build for MMA. But there is still a lot of guys who are shorter, stockier dudes, and so having guys like TJ come down and help us out is just another good look. Not all guys even being built the same. Like TJ's similar built to like Lance or to my buddy George, but they all have their own skill sets and styles.
For sure. How do you see this fight playing out on June 26th?
Yeah, I think this fight is gonna be, I think he's gonna try to come out strong. I know he's he's kind of like a front runner. So if the fight's going good in the beginning, he's doing good. He wants to. But I think if he starts to get a little bit of adversity, I think he starts to crack a little bit. And so I think right out the gate, I want to kind of keep the pace and kind of keep him moving at my speed, and then and not really give him anything. Just like make him get more and more frustrated, even if it's small things. Just kind of win those small battles and make sure he doesn't get out in front ever. And if he does, he does. But I want to make sure that he knows that I'm ready for anything that he's got, and just slowly break him down. And I think, at the end of the first round, he's going to realize that I'm not going to be going anywhere, and then my cardio is probably one of the best in the featherweight division. And towards the second round, he's going to really have to figure out what he wants to do. Does he want to try to have to wrestle me against the cage, or try to take me down? And that's kind of a losing scenario for him, or want to stay on the feet, which I think is maybe a higher percentage for him. But I still think I'm better in obviously in that aspect too, because that's usually all I want to do is stand and bang with people. So.
And something you referenced earlier, the fact that you've been in the UFC, the fact that you've been there before. Do you kind of have nothing? You feel like you have nothing to lose, right? Heading into this fight, how much of an advantage do you think that is? Because Jamal's never been in the UFC. He's got to get this shot if he wants to get in. But you've been there. I mean, there'll probably be other opportunities. Is that kind of how you view this fight?
Yeah, I got to take every opportunity serious as well. I can't, because even in my head, I did the Ultimate Fighter thing. I was in the UFC, and I really want to win this fight. I've seen guys making the UFC even losing contender fights, so, and I'm already familiar with them. But I think one of my biggest advantages is that being on the Ultimate Fighter, I fought in that cage 4 times already. So I've already been in that building. I know exactly what it's like. I know what it's like to look at Dana White while I'm walking out and, have him looking right at me and then go fight right in front of him and fight in front of everybody else too. So I think that's one of my biggest advantages, is just being in that specific area and that specific cage. So, and I know how big it is. And even at the PI, we have a cage that's identical to that. So having the availability of those different little aspects of it, and those are small details, like small things like that, like that you don't realize until you get in there. Like, people don't realize how big the UFC cage is, the big one that they have, until you've been in it. And so, like, even just having training availability at the PI with a cage that's identical to the cage that I'm going to be fighting in helps me with my distance, my range, where I can run, where I can, where I have to, cut angles and stuff and work like that. And so I think just those small things are going to give me the edge in this fight.
Before I let you go, I got to ask, as a fellow Pacific Northwester, are you a Seattle Seahawks fan at all? I know Miesha's a big one. Is football something that's on your radar at all?
I've never been a huge football fan, but I'm from Seattle originally, and now I lived in Yakima for a long time. But yeah, Seattle, the Seahawks are my team. If I do watch any football, it's the Seahawks. And people are like, oh, well, you're jumping on the bandwagon or whatever. But it's not even about jumping on the bandwagon. I'm originally from Seattle. If I'm going to be a fan of any team, why not be a hometown team? So yeah, for sure, Seahawks are my team.
Are you excited at all? It sounds like Seattle's getting a hockey team as well too, and I know you live in Vegas, so the Golden Knights, I'm sure, have had a bit of an influence there. Is that something you're excited for?
Yeah, I'm not a bit even with hockey. I don't follow it a lot, but there is a little bit of a borderline of MMA in hockey, because those guys like to bang it out too. So that's my favorite part to watch. I like to watch a little bit of a contact sport like that. And so, and obviously the Golden Knights coming here has made me more of a fan. But, it kind of sucks that they lost the whole Stanley Cup, but it's their first year. So, I mean, they made it so far already. So it's, it's kind of cool to see that. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll check out more hockey. I think there's less fights than I thought there would be. So
right.
That's kind of
fair enough.
Kind of turned me off of it, but.
And speaking of fights, everyone's got to check out this matchup coming up here, June 26th, live on UFC Fight Pass. It's Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. Julian, it was great getting a chance to talk to you, man. Just remind people where they can find you on social media, and if you got any sponsors or shout-outs, the floor is yours, man.
Yeah, just all my sponsors. I Muscle Maker Grill here in Las Vegas has been sponsoring me for my weight, my meal prep, and it's been helping me out a lot. Obviously, I train at Extreme Couture, also 10th Planet Henderson, and then the UFC PI. I'm sure those guys get more than enough shout outs to them, but they're super great over there. And that's basically, I only have a couple of sponsors, and those are basically them. I mean, the Muscle Maker Grill, and then Title Boxing gave me some gloves as well. So, but AO8 Management, that's my management team, and those are the guys kind of pushing for me. And I just started with those guys, and they've been amazing. They obviously, the first opportunity they gave me is in the Contender. So, it's a great partnership that we have. Shout out to Miesha. She just had a kid. and she's amazing. She's a good friend of mine, and basically that's it. My friends and family, you know, everybody can reach me on all the social medias just under Julian Erosa. It'll pop up. But yeah, thanks to everybody, and everybody tune in for a good fight on June 26th.
What's up, fight fans? If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to see even more interviews with your favorite UFC and Bellator fighters. We've also got coverage at events, including post-fight press conferences and media scrums. And if you like this video, check out the video to my right. It's worth your time.